Hey everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Hey Heather.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for joining me. This is actually pretty exciting because for two reasons. One, it's Frenedy's first official blab, even though I've tested it a couple of times. And it's super exciting for me to be able to do our first blab with somebody like you. So I wanted to introduce Heather to everyone out there. Heather is a friend of mine, and she's an amazing businesswoman, as well as the fact that she has a career that is every woman's dream. She's a real live Olivia Benson. She was a former NCIS agent for 14 years, and I'm absolutely infatuated with what she's been able to accomplish. And just for the viewers who might be watching or rewatching this later, just to make a brief introduction of who I am, I'm Janelle Patterson. I'm the CEO of Frienedy and the co-founder. And Frienedy is the first private group networking application that's suitable for users of all ages. And that's why I thought that it would just be so appropriate for our first blab to interview you, Heather, because part of what we were founded on is our mission and our passion for digital citizenship and online safety, and as a way for parents to introduce their kids to social media on their terms, but also for people of all ages to have a whole different level of privacy and safety when it comes to social media. So what I was hoping to do today is I really want to focus on you and your career, because I know that you get a lot of questions about how did you do it? What was it like? How did you become a federal agent? So I think it'd be really cool for people to find out about that. And I know too that you probably have a lot of tips for viewers out there, especially parents, or even just adults who are watching, because everyone needs to know how to keep themselves safe online.
Right.
So let's start out by having you tell us a little bit about your career with the NCIS. You were there for 14 years, so maybe give us a little bit of the highlights. What was that like?
Sure. It was crazy.
So was
No,
since I've watched every single episode of Law and Order SVU, and yes, there were like 80 some of them, is it just like the TV show?
it's exactly like the TV show.
Exactly what I thought.
I,
What I should have gone down that career path.
for sure. Yeah, we solve things in an hour.
Right.
We're just that amazing.
And the bad
No,
guys always get put away, right?
right away. It always ends up perfectly. So no, it's not like the TV show. I mean, there's parts of the TV show that are similar. We actually have an agent that was assigned to the show. I'm not sure how he got that gig, and I got the 2 a.m. homicide calls, but
That stinks.
he knows someone. So yeah, I worked for NCIS for 14 years, and just a little bit of background. So NCIS stands for Naval Criminal Investigative Service, but all of the special agents are civilian. So we have civilian and military arrest authority, and we investigated. I say we. I'm not there anymore. I just recently turned in my badge and gun, but so we investigate crimes that affect the Department of the Navy. So that means Navy or Marine Corps. That means crimes that were committed by or against military members or their families. So in 14 years, I worked things like I worked undercover narcotics initially, because I was pretty young when I joined. And as you can see, I don't look like a cop.
No, not at all.
Right. So the first couple of years, I bought a lot of drugs, and I thought this is the best job ever. That
Getting paid to buy drugs.
Yeah, I got paid to buy drugs. When I was 20, whatever. So I was invincible at the time, and it was a lot of fun. And so I got to be good in that realm. And I was brought over to our units called the Office of Special Projects, OSP, which is in Washington, D.C., where I investigated high-level espionage and terrorism investigations. I was there for several years. We had great successes. We, along with our partners at the FBI, caught the first U.S. In the first time in U.S. history, we caught a Chinese spy ring. So that's a really cool case. Yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
That's a cool thing.
Yeah. That is so awesome.
Woo!
Yay.
Yeah, it was 3 years of a lot of work. Like you talk about the TV show, that stuff gets wrapped up in an hour.
I know.
Yeah. In real life, it took 3 years, 15-hour days and
No one knows
traveling the
that.
world. And yeah, it's not so fun to watch people go to briefings at the Pentagon and things like that. But yeah, if anyone's interested, that case is CHIMAC. It's CHIMAK. It's a really cool, it's taught in colleges and stuff nowadays. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. So from
Impressive.
there, yeah, it certainly wasn't just me. It was an amazing group of investigators. So that I was just fortunate to be part of. So I was there for almost 4 years, and then I got transferred to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, where it's a nuclear subbase. And so they often have, as you can imagine, the nuclear subs, we have to protect that technology, that information. But really, that's where I started working child exploitation type of cases, online predators, and also got into family sexual violence. So people often ask me about, Olivia Benson and SVU. And yeah, again, not as pretty. She's always put together. And
as are you.
Yeah, well, thanks.
Yes.
You see me now, but at 2 a.m., I'm not so chipper. So
that's the side that no one ever sees is all of these, you probably work 12-hour days. You come home at 7:00. You barely have time to eat and get your kids to bed. And then you're asleep and the phone rings in the middle of the night and there you go out again, right?
Right. Yeah. When I first, so when I was working the espionage stuff, I didn't have kids.
Right.
When I lived in Washington, D.C. And I don't know how people did it who did have kids, but when I was in Portsmouth, New Hampshire is where I had my kiddos. And, your whole perspective changes when you work those kind of crimes. I was really deep into the child exploitation stuff at that time. And, it gets a little more personal, right? Like when you see kids being victimized who are the same age as your kids, and it becomes, I don't know, you're almost more invested in it than you were before. So it just became a huge passion of mine to hold these guys accountable for what they were doing. So got really into cyber crimes. If anyone's familiar with ICACS, it's the Internet Crimes Against Children. Every state has it. There's federal, local, state partners, and we investigate online crimes. So I did that for a while. And in those 4 years there, I had 2 kiddos. And that's when I started the crazy balancing act that we're all, I'm not special to any other working mom, right? It's just extraordinary circumstances. But then, so then we went to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. And that's where I really started with the interrogations and perfecting my trade with that. Had some great cases, worked, homicides, child exploitation, lots of sexual assault stuff. And then I was promoted to be a supervisor in Chicago. So I went there. I had the fabulous opportunity to be the supervisor for 10 amazing guys who are fantastic investigators. We were in charge, I was in charge of 10 states. So in those 10 states, any crimes that were committed from or by members of the Navy or Marine Corps or affecting them, we were responsible for all of that. And then just recently, I was able to start this new company, which is it's a whole new season of my life now. But I'm sure we'll get into that. So let me know if I'm talking too much.
No, you're doing great. This is so fascinating, and thank you for the compliment, Biz Chicks podcast, Natalie. Thank you so much. No, this is great, and it's so impressive to see what you accomplished in 14 years. And I can't even imagine how difficult that was as a mom to balance all that. But what the audience should also know is not only were you this really amazing special investigator, but you're also an amazing businesswoman. And so Heather went through a change recently where she decided to leave the NCIS and found her own company, which is Safe in the City. So I have more NCIS questions for you, but do you mind? I want you to give a plug for your business because I love what it does. And I personally, with my daughters, have been through your classes and recommend them to everybody. I know that when I came through, I was a little cocky and thought, oh, well, I know how to protect myself. But after coming out of the class that I took with both of my girls and then the self-defense class too, I felt like I would have done everything wrong had I not had that knowledge that I could have only gotten through someone who's been there, done that. So tell us a little bit about Safe in the City too.
Sure, thanks. That's awesome to hear. Like, that's exactly why I started this company. I started looking out there. I was hearing from all these victims. I sat with so many of them, and I was hearing stuff that, they would. One thing I talk a lot about in my company is listening to your gut. So the name of my company is Safe in the City. Our website is safeinthecity.co.co, not .com. So I started doing some research. I knew I wanted to start a company, just wasn't sure what I wanted to do. But I started doing research, looking what kind of education is out there. And what I was finding is that there's people teaching women and girls safety tips, tricks, self-defense methods, who have really only read things in a book, who really aren't qualified experts. They haven't sat in the room with the bad guy.
Right.
And my thought was, I spent all this time with all these stinky bad guys, in these rooms, and I know how they pick their victims. Now, what do I do with that? I want to share that information. And it's not about, the stuff I was seeing out there was, people giving lectures about don't wear long necklaces or short skirts, because when the boogeyman jumps out of the bushes, you won't be able to run away. Well, that's nonsense. It's nonsense.
Yep.
There are other groups who are, sorry, my earphone just fell out.
You're good.
There's other groups. Okay, cool. There's other groups who are great in their own right, but they come from more of a victim perspective. So what I wanted to do was start a company that would teach women and girls how to truly protect themselves from someone who has talked to the bad guy. I know how these bad guys pick their victims. And what I want to do is, my whole life, I've only dealt with the victims after the fact, right? Before I was an NCIS agent, I was a social worker. I've been dealing with victims forever. But what I want to do now is prevent those women and girls from becoming victims in the first place. So what I teach them in my workshops with Safe in the City, we talk about online and physical safety. And then I do the self-defense courses, which you're referring to. And those self-defense courses aren't like fancy martial arts classes. Like, you don't need to know anything super ninja-like, unless
Right.
That's your thing. And if it is, that's fantastic. But the reality is, we want you to stun and run. We want you to, just get out of there. Run is what we want to do. So that's what we teach, is real practical stuff. And I have been so excited about the response that I've gotten. Like, I love hearing stuff like what you just said. I love that hopefully what we're doing is going to make a difference. We're going to prevent some girls from becoming victims. So I'm not sure. I think Janelle is frozen. Can somebody tell me if I'm frozen in the messages? Kids, what to use? I did a lot of research. I really couldn't find anything. And then I came across your company and Frienedy, and this gives, kids a whole tool. I know you can speak to that, but I am just so excited that you have started this company and that this is a positive alternative for kids.
Thank you.
To use on social media. Yeah.
I tend to, the messaging that I have and what I believe into my core is that kids do need to have a positive social media profile. They need to be, if they love Twitter, they need a Twitter account. If they love Instagram or Facebook, as long as they're old enough, as long as their parents are in agreement. But the key is these kids have grown up in an era that's so different from the one that you and I grew up in, Heather. And they don't understand that this is so public, and that when they're tweeting something, if their account is public, they're not tweeting it just to their followers. They're tweeting it to that, 306 million people on Twitter, because anybody and all of those bad guys out there can find them.
Right.
But at the same time, I think if they just learn how to channel it right and how to, and thank you for all the props. I appreciate that. But I think if they just learn how to channel it correctly, and put together a positive profile that's going to set them apart and differentiate them, so that when they take that next step after high school, whether it's getting a job or whether it's trying for a scholarship or getting into college, that they'll stand out in a positive way. I think if they learn how to do that and then complement their public social media profile with a private social media profile like Frienedy, where it's completely off the grid. It's very safe. And the groups that you form in Frienedy are real human beings. You're not, it's not public, not anyone can't join the group. You have to be invited. So they tend to be smaller groups. They tend to be people that you know. And it's a great place to sort of store and cache that information that's really interesting and valuable and that you want to come back to. But it gives kids a place to put things like their selfies and their duck faces and their peace signs and all of the stuff that they're putting that they want to put somewhere and they want to share, but really isn't necessary to put on the public social media. But let me ask you one other question too, because I get this question from moms a lot, talking to moms groups. How do you feel about, and I'm in a lot of moms groups on Facebook. How do you feel, and what would your recommendation be based on your background for moms who post a lot of pictures of their kids on public social media? Have you found that to be dangerous? What are the risks? What are your recommendations there?
Yeah. Excuse me. So I'm always shocked at what people post on social media. And we talk a lot about how easy it is for bad guys to find you. But, I think that sometimes parents, we only think about how easy it is for the bad guys to find us, but you're making it really easy for bad guys to find your kids. And, if there's when parents become crazy about, it's our kids, right? So when you cannot, when I see people posting things like, hey everyone, I'm going to be at the park with my my 2-year-old and my 4-year-old in 30 minutes. It just makes me cringe, because I think that even as moms that we only think of this online security issue as something for teenagers, right?
Yep.
We preach at our kids, don't tell anyone where you're going online, turn off your location on your Instagram accounts. Well, unless you don't know about that stuff as a parent, and we'll teach you about it.
That's right.
But you too, moms and dads, like this applies to you too. This is something like you're in a Facebook group. You don't know who's in that Facebook group. There could be, 500 people. Do you really know those 500 people? No, you don't. And I mean, I am in some amazing Facebook groups, and I see Biz Chicks is in here. Love my Biz Chicks ladies. There's all kinds of groups, and even though they're closed, you do not know everyone in there. And as such, you should not be sharing where you're going that day, what you're going to do that day. I even recommend not putting a ton of pictures of your kids. You don't want to post stuff every day about your kids. Again, to me, it's common sense. And yet I see moms and dads doing it every single day. So, Natalie at BizChicks is talking about turn off your location and all your social media. Absolutely.
Yes.
There is no reason. And even on the closed groups, be careful what you talk about your location. Listen, I'm here to tell you that there are so many weirdos out there. It's a needle in a haystack for us as law enforcement. There are so many of them that there are just not enough of us. And so you have to be in control of what you post on there, not just watch what your kids post, but watch what you're posting.
Yeah, you're right. There was a case this summer I saw, and I've learned a lot about this just since, getting to know you more, Heather. I had no idea. I didn't even stop and think that in some of these, moms groups or whatnot that I might be in, that who knows if there's 500 people in that group, I don't necessarily know that all 500 of those people were really moms, because anybody can add them. So you have to be so careful. But there was a case this summer that there was a mom in Utah, and her daughter was asking for an Instagram account. The daughter was 10, and she kept asking and asking and asking. And this happened to me when my daughter was 11. She asked for an Instagram account, and an absolutely horrific experience happened, which was the whole catalyst for me finding Frienedy. But in this particular case, the mom thought, I'm going to check out Instagram before I allow my daughter to get on there. And she goes out and she gets on Instagram and runs into her daughter and thinks, oh, wow, well, that's kind of interesting. How I already told her that she couldn't be on here. Why did she go and set up an account? And then she found a picture of like her 9 or 10-month-old son as well. And what she found was it was a porn account, and somebody had found those pictures of her kids through her own Facebook account, which, that blows my mind. I'm sure that happens every day. But when I'm talking to parent groups, I typically tell them, just be really selective about these pictures that you put on public social media. It's okay to put them, and we're all proud of our kids, and we want to share these amazing things that they do and these cute little pictures, but it just makes a lot more sense to share them privately, which is, obviously what I promote, sharing them privately through a private Frienedy group, whether it's with your family or your group of friends or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, every bad guy's computer that I seized, that we took while I worked with NCIS, it was, there's always the awful pictures that I see, but I'm here to tell you that there are every single one of them. And again, hundreds, I've worked with hundreds of child exploitation cases. On every one of them, there were things that you and I would also look at as benign, like gymnastics competitions or ballet pictures, or, I know that I live in a little bit of a negative world, but the reality is those pictures that you're putting of your kids' ballet class or your gymnastics competition, we look at it and we put it on our Facebook page because we're so proud of our kids. But there are bad guys out there who are looking at little girls in their cheerleading outfits or whatever, and from a completely different perspective than we do. And as a mom, when you see that kind of stuff, and those moms put it on their Facebook page for a good reason, right? They just want to share with their friends their accomplishments.
Absolutely.
But these guys take it and twist it. And that's why, like group or, like your app, like Frienedy app, that will allow you to share those pictures with your friends, your family, is off the Google radar. I love it for that application, because I want my friends and my family to see, my daughter's gymnastics competition, how amazing she is at her backflips, whatever.
And she is. She flips constantly.
And she's pretty amazing. No.
She is. She's adorable.
But I don't want, pervs online taking it. So that's what, I like to use Frienedy for things like that. But it's scary when you see what these guys have on computers. And they take from open social media. Like they didn't steal it from anyone. They took it straight from your account.
The minute we post it, it's not ours anymore. That's the thing when it comes to public social media.
Right.
Well, one of the things too, I just wanted to let everybody know about is that this is probably a really fun time to be able to announce that we are creating a 3-part video series. It's completely free. And it's going to be called Get Safe Academy. And so Heather and I are working on this together and building on, collaborating together and building on our pool of knowledge to bring to parents a 3-part video series on how to keep your children safe, both physically and online, and how to help them create a social media profile that will work well for them now socially and will work well for them later professionally. We're both moms, and we're both incredibly passionate about keeping our kids safe, as well as helping them be productive in the long run, protecting them from their innocence now and helping them be productive citizens in the future. So eventually, very soon, we'll have an opt-in page up where people can put their email in if they're interested in getting links to those videos that are completely free. And we're going to really pack them with some great content I'm super excited about. We just shot video 1. But in the meantime, if anyone is interested in getting a hold of those videos, you can go 3 places and put your email in. You can either go to Heather's website, which is safeinthecity.co, not .com. It's safeinthecity.co. And she has a place where you can put your email in just to kind of stay updated with what's going on the website. That will definitely put you on the radar screen for the videos. Or I have a blog. The blog is called electronicparenting.com. If you go to that blog and sign up, that will put you on my radar screen. Or if you sign up on Frienedy as a new user, that will also put you on our radar screen. So it's Frienedy, FRIENEDY.com. And so any of those 3 places right now, we will absolutely know that you want to get information when these videos are out. But one more thing, Heather, I see a really great question here that says, have you dealt with many human trafficking cases in regards to social media? Great question. Do you want to comment on that before we close things up?
Yeah, sure. Yes, we have. Because NCIS is worldwide. So to give you a broader picture of the agency, are you hearing an echo or is that just me?
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay,
If anyone else is
sorry
hearing
guys.
it, oh, yep, Natalie says she does. I'm not hearing one.
It just started. Is that better?
It sounds okay to me.
All right, sorry guys.
Yeah,
All
better
right,
now. Better now. Okay,
okay.
good.
Um, so NCIS is an agency. There's only 1,200 agents in the whole world. So anywhere that there is a Navy or Marine Corps presence, there are special agents. But if you can picture the whole world, 1,200 people is not a lot, right?
Yeah.
So we only deal with the high level felony crimes. So yes, human trafficking is one of those. Human trafficking is, as you've all seen online, but it's such a prolific issue for us. So yeah, some of our worst human trafficking actually that we've run into, that I have personally dealt with, have actually been in the U.S. I think that we think a lot of it happening in Thailand, and again, it's one of those somewhere far away. It certainly couldn't be us. Very similar to the social media stuff, right? It doesn't happen to me. It doesn't happen in my backyard,
Right.
but it certainly does. And so what we have worked is, when you think about major venues, so things like the Super Bowl, 4th of July, Mardi Gras, worked a lot in New Orleans for things like Mardi Gras. The different human traffickers will bring the girls into those large venues. So what
Really?
yeah, it's pretty bad. And they are girls who are trafficked in the U.S. Like these are our daughters. These are our nieces, our neighbors, and they somehow got wrapped into this. So generally, it's a runaway, and the runaway is told she'll be taken care of by their pimp or whatever. And what they do is they move them all over the country. So it's very difficult for law enforcement to find. The good thing is that when they move them from state to state, it becomes a felony. So they're crossing state lines, and when it becomes a felony, you can get federal agents involved. So NCIS can get involved, FBI, some of our other counterparts. But what we would do is hit a major venue. So let's take Super Bowl, for example, or let's take Mardi Gras, because that's my personal experience. So we might go down to Mardi Gras in groups, and we would specifically look for these girls, and whether that means that we pose as military members, or we conduct some kind of surveillance or whatever, we know they're going to be there. And we actually had some great success at Mardi Gras, specifically with finding some of these girls and reuniting them with their families. I have tons of stories. So if people are interested, we could go on forever with NCIS stories, and I would love to. But yes, we deal with human trafficking. We've had some fantastic success. Again, we partner with our counterparts of federal law enforcement. But I feel proud to say that we did save a few girls in the process, but there's so many more out there. And it's not just a problem in Thailand, it's a problem here, in the US. So it's something, and it's because we pay for it, right? So they wouldn't exist if there wasn't somebody who wanted to buy their services.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. So Mark just said, put NCIS stories into a podcast and then a book. Funny he mentions that, because you are doing a book. So
Mark, you're awesome.
Stay tuned. You have telepathy. Yeah, so stay tuned. I'm sure that Heather will keep you updated on that. But I think for today, we'll probably wrap this up. We don't want to take up too much time from anyone, but I think we're going to try and do this weekly for a while. And then I love the idea that someone suggested about you doing a podcast. That might be something to consider, Heather. I think everyone is just fascinated by your career. You've been so successful. You've done things that so few people have done. And now you're this really successful businesswoman. So I think you're an inspiration to everybody, whether it's moms or business people or dads, or just people who want to get to know someone who's made a difference in this world. So I really, really appreciate you jumping on with me today.
Absolutely. And, if there are questions that people have or that people would like us to talk about, tweet us, send me a message. You can give, you can see on the Blab, I'm at SPCLAGNT Heather on Twitter. Tweet me. I am learning Twitter.
Yep.
Natalie.
You know more than enough to be dangerous.
Sign up at safeinthecity.co. I've got some good information on there. But, I would like to know, what is it that you guys want to hear about? Do you want to hear stories? Do you want to hear tips? Both of us, Janelle has a great background with social media stuff. So, Janelle, you want to tell them about your contact information?
Yeah. So if anyone is interested in reaching out to me directly, you can find me on Twitter at Frienedy, which is Frienedy. Or of course, you can, my direct email address is Janelle at Frienedy, JANEL at Frienedy.com. And then I have a blog, which is Electronic Parenting. But I would love to hear feedback on the Frienedy platform. We launched this April, so it's fairly new, but there's a tremendous need for that private platform for people to feel like they can be safe in what they're sharing, and for people to introduce their kids to social media on their terms. So I'd love feedback on it. We're coming out with version 2 in January. It's absolutely amazing. We have some literally world-renowned designers that have taken on this project, and we have some huge things to announce coming out in January that I'm incredibly excited about. So for now, I think we'll probably bring this to a close. I really appreciate everyone joining. Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
And we'll do this again next week. All right, everybody have an awesome weekend. Happy Friday.
Thanks, guys. Happy Friday.
Bye, everyone.